Друзья, я хочу обратиться.
You know what, friends? I want to talk to the gas stations that are privately owned, like the URTK filling stations in the region. With the current fuel shortage we have in the Udmurt region, these gas stations have jacked up the prices. Why the f did you, such badass guys, decide that you're such? Huh? I'm just curious. Why the hell are you raising prices like that? That's fucking crazy. When there is such a problem now in the country, you know what problems of ordinary people there are. Why are you profiting from this, huh? You know that people will be forced to buy fuel. You know that people will be forced to buy fuel at such prices. Shameless jerks. You need to be whipped, damn it. You should be lined up in front of your gas stations. You should be bent over, have your pants taken off, and be fucking whipped properly in front of honest people.
Dramatic fires rage deep inside Russian territory as Ukrainian missiles and drones strike key military-industrial targets. Moscow's air defenses appear under strain, global diplomacy teeters, and a shifting battlefield calculus may be emerging. Today, we unpack what we know, what remains unconfirmed, and what this means for the war in Ukraine, and for the wider world. In recent days, the armed forces of Ukraine announced a major strike on a chemical plant complex in the Bryansk Oblast of western Russia, a facility that is described as part of Moscow's defense industrial base. According to Ukraine's general staff, the operation used French-British air-launched missiles known as Storm Shadow, penetrated Russian air defenses, and targeted a plant producing gunpowder, explosives, and rocket fuel components. The governor of the Bryansk region acknowledged that missiles and drones had hit Russia. Some specifics are still unconfirmed, but the Ukrainian side claims the hit was a part of a campaign of drone and missile attacks meant to destroy Russia's ability to wage war. For instance, it is now unable to objectively verify the quantity of drones and missiles used, notably over 50, as stated in certain audio-visual commentary. Similarly, there is still some evidence to support the claim that the strike involved more than 50 missiles and drones deep in Russia. Verifiable. Ukraine has attacked Russia deeply before. Ukraine's unmanned systems forces and media verified an attack on a chemical complex in Seltso-Bryansk area on January 14, 2025. Furthermore, Ukraine has hit other industrial facilities in Russia's rear, such as the chemical plant in Stavropol Krai and the Novokuybishevsk petrochemical complex in Samara Oblast, targeting facilities tied to explosives manufacture. What's clear is that Ukraine's strategy increasingly involves long-range strikes and attacks beyond the immediate front line. What remains less clear is the precise coordination, number of assets used, and immediate Russian damage and response. Now for Moscow's response, audio and commentary claim that Russia's air defense systems malfunctioned, that some Russian military planes veered or escaped, and that even common people are publicly denouncing Vladimir Putin for allegedly failing to defend them. According to reports, some Russians demanded attacks against the Kremlin in Moscow. The precise allegations, such as Putin escaping the Kremlin bunker, a planned mass panic in the streets, or Russian planes diverting to the Urals, are not supported by credible independent sources, even though they capture the spirit of the propaganda campaign. However, we are aware that internal criticism of command and defense shortcomings has been more widely accepted by Russian official media and military bloggers. For instance, after the June drone strike operation by Ukraine on Russian air bases, Russian military bloggers criticized the Aerospace Command for letting strategic bombers be targeted. Publicly, the Kremlin has so far offered only limited acknowledgement of these deep strikes, which suggests either an effort to minimize domestic unease or a genuine attempt to suppress information on systemic deficiencies. These strikes have two bigger implications, as do Russia's potential defense deficiencies. First, from a military operational standpoint, Moscow will have an increasingly difficult time defending not only frontline troops, but also rear logistics and war economy infrastructure if Ukrainian missile systems like Storm Shadow continue to breach Russian air defenses and strike deep inside industrial complexes. One of Ukraine's declared goals has been to weaken Russia's ability to manufacture explosives, gasoline, and weapons. One report, for instance, called the attack on a chemical plant in Seltso that destroyed munitions components arguably the largest-scale long-range strike by the Ukrainian defense forces since the outbreak. Second, from a diplomatic and geopolitical perspective, these operations send a message not only to Russia, but also to Ukraine's Western backers. Some analysts interpret the timing, shortly after discussions in Washington and with the forthcoming summit between Donald Trump and Putin, as signaling both Ukraine's capability and its expectations of Western patience. For example, The Guardian notes that the attack coincided with diplomatic stagnation over a ceasefire proposal and raised questions about Russian willingness to talk. At the same time, Western capitals are reportedly keen to explore ceasefire options, even as Moscow rejects unilateral stopgaps, seeing them as defeat-oriented. In this light, one claim in the original commentary, that Russia's war economy is collapsing, or that 130,000 Russians will be without electricity and water because of a refinery in Bryansk burning, is unverified. Attacks against Russian energy infrastructure and refineries, including raids on military and oil installations 180 kilometers southeast of Moscow in August 2025, have been reported by Western media and claimed by Ukraine. There is no source for the precise number of 130,000 Russians in the mainstream media. Therefore, any claim of an imminent mass collapse in Russia should be viewed with skepticism. Similarly, rather than being a purely factual military report, the commentary's assertion that Putin is panicking, Russians are pointing at oligarchs and elites is a reflection of sentiment. Although there is evidence of growing public annoyance in Russia, particularly among military bloggers and regional authorities, systematic polling data on Putin's emotional state or widespread public protests are currently unavailable to the public. As for the strategic outlook, if Putin and his inner circle believe that Western support for Ukraine may waver and that Russia's economy can outlast Ukraine's allies, then these kinds of Ukrainian strikes serve to change that calculation. According to the comments, persuading Putin that he cannot win and that the cost of the conflict is too great is the only way to put a stop to it. That is consistent with the strategic positioning of a number of Western defense experts who argue that Ukraine has to tip the scales and lessen Russia's capacity to wage war. But it's a bit simplistic to say that Russia is refusing a ceasefire while Ukraine or the West is requesting one. Despite the existence of several ceasefire and negotiating proposals, Kyiv finds Moscow's terms to be harsh and unacceptable. To sum up, the main confirmed facts are: Russia verified a strike in the Bryansk region after Ukrainian forces used long-range missiles, including Storm Shadow, to hit a chemical complex there. Pressure is mounting on Russia's industrial infrastructure and air defense. Unverified claims remain concerning the number of missiles/drones, Putin's flight, mass domestic panic, and precise domestic energy impacts. The broader strategic lasting effect is that Ukraine appears to be increasingly striking deep into Russia's rear, targeting defense industrial and infrastructure assets, and thereby attempting to force a recalibration of Moscow's war economy and the political calculus of its leadership. In the days ahead, keep an eye on several indicators: whether Russia publicly acknowledges a rise in such deep strikes, whether Ukraine obtains additional Western long-range missiles, such as Tomahawks, how Moscow's air defense posture adjusts, if at all, and whether diplomatic tracks move toward a ceasefire or intensify into further escalation. The stage is shifting from purely frontline combat to a deeper war of infrastructure, economics, and political endurance, and that may have consequences far beyond the immediate battlefield.